All right, so we here. Um, yeah, I wanted to do reaction. I might even redo this video again, but I'm gonna be quick about this because I gotta go to work today. Gotta go make this money. But the crazy part about this, when it comes down to it, um, and even the seriousness of this video, I always talk about money. I always talk about getting yourself together, and this was a situation to where as far as getting yourself together wise, this young lady had about 4 kids from 4 different dudes. She was actually married at one point, so you can't really fault her for that. She did the right thing. She got married, and just with certain things, this wasn't in the cards. And if you look in the description, you'll see where this video is coming from. I actually could have went and got the lady's Instagram when she did this, but I got this off of Pink Pink Book Lessons, and the video was regarding a woman had 4 kids from 4 different dudes, and the situation was she kind of got a little upset that uh the father, which would be the baby daddy, had questioned her about the kids' attendance being unacceptable. And from that point, you can tell he was a good dude because she actually added him to the school registry to be able to check the kid out and do all this stuff regarding the kid. So when he seen about the attendance, he didn't like that, so he questioned it. Even me being a father, you know, if I just so happen to look at the attendance of my kids, and I'm married, and my kids are late to school because I go to work early. So if I just so happen to get even with the report card shows the attendance, the tardiness, all this throughout. So if I see a lot of that on the report card, I'm gonna question that with my wife. Pretty much that's what good fathers do into that situation. But say the least, you know, she got offended with him questioning her about the kids being late, about doing certain things, and that is true. As a woman, you don't get time off. When it comes down to the, raising of the kids without the man in the household, you accept the bulk of the responsibility. And when I say accept the bulk of responsibility, nobody really, everything falls on you. You're the mother, and you're the one that bears the kids. You're the one that gets the custody. You're the one that gets the child support. You're the one that gets the responsibility. And a lot of people don't like that in regards to that, you know, um, having these issues. Yeah, sorry about that. Seeing a notification on my phone, just trying to check for something. But basically, you're the one that's responsible. Without that man being in the home, or without that man pretty much co-parenting with you, you're on the ticket for everything. If the child gets sick, you got to call out of work. My son just broke his arm. My wife had to go pick him up because I was out of town. But if I was in town, most likely she still would have had to do it, or less. I was going to send my aunt, but he had to end up going to the hospital because he broke his arm. And regards to that, you know, that's the thing. If in certain relationships or certain situations, you're the responsible one over the child because you have the custody. So taking it that she had an issue with her having to do so much work, why she didn't, even work it out with this guy who's a good dad. And the thing of it is, why are you just not putting this man on the registry to properly look after the kids? You know, because obviously he's not a bad father. He might be a bad man to you, but he's not a bad father. Because the first thing he did was jumped on that situation. So that shows he might been a bad man to her, but technically he was a good father because he opened up about that situation when he seen it at hand, you know. And like I said, the link is in the description if you want to go back and look at this video. And not really trying to shame the lady for having 4 kids by 4 different dudes because, like I said, she was married. The whole issue is that with this one good guy, she never talks about the other guys, but the guy who was checking up on his kid, had some situations about that, and it's that's what made me do this video in regards to how she said that financial wise, you know, a lot of situations, a lot of people don't really go it, because she said the $200 a month ain't nothing. But I mean, you will get more benefits if be in a relationship with the guy. And not saying that forcing her in a relationship, but if this was a good guy and this was a whole situation to where you can get past it, because I mean, most of the time that's in marriages, the money gets, kind of cut off when you're not with that person. Take for instance, like 50 Cent. It was word that he was giving his baby mama like $25,000 a month, but when they, cut ties with each other, it was 1,600 a month, or well, I'm sorry, not 1,600, 6,700 a month, or just basically like $7,000 a month. She went from 25 to 7,000. Yeah, he probably was cheating, and yeah, he most likely, he was doing a lot of, messing around and stuff to a degree. That's why I'm saying probably because we don't know. I mean, probably could be a wholesome dude. Yeah, he probably could have been messing around, could have not, but you don't know behind closed doors because a lot of people have to put on this facade to, keep an image up. So if he's a rapper, he has to keep this image of a certain, type of way about himself, then that's what he's, portraying and putting out. But say the least, as far as with the kids go, you know, keeping that bond in that kid's life with the father, whether you're not with the father or not, kind of works in, your favor and the child's favor. Because typically most guys would go above and beyond for their kids outside of child support, unless you just, put them in that tough situation to where, they don't want to do anything what's in the best interest of the kid. And sometimes I get it. I understand. Like I say, I always say when I talk about these between these gender topics, I try not to touch them too much. But like I say, I'm a man. I get it. If you know I'm a good father and you take it upon yourself to kind of put me in a bad situation of me being a man that's not going to be responsible for his kids, I deem that disrespectful and kind of slander towards me. And therefore, a lot of guys, I'm not saying all guys, I don't never speak in absolutes. But when it comes to situations like this, if you know I'm a good father, I'm going to always be there for my kids, let's work it out together and have a conversation to where if you need money, ask me. If you need money every month, ask me. Let's work out something. We can even put it on paper and I can sign it, you can sign it, that we agree. This is the same thing that the court is doing. And when you really look at it, you're being charged to do this through the court, but you could do it on your own. In most cases, just signing this piece of paper stating that, you're the father. If we're gonna do joint custody, we're gonna write on the paperwork. This is joint custody. We're gonna get it. You can get a notary to authorize this. So if you default on your word, she can take you to court. And if she defaults on her word, you can take her to court. So if you're supposed to be seeing the kid this time, then she don't let you, and y'all go into this whole. Everything is more or less can be a compromise. See, a lot of times, putting the court in there, you're going to get forced. And if that man is forced to do something, you know, cool, he can pay. He's going to pay regardless. But to a degree, when it comes down to it, if you're trying to do this out of spite, that's when you're only going to get the minimum. Now, if you're doing this out of regard to say, what's in the best interest of the child, and let's just put it on child support so it won't be no question or won't be no back and forth issues, then a guy can understand it. And we had this talk. But if you're doing it out of spite to try to say, I'm gonna see if I can get the most. I always talk about there was an incident where a guy he was giving his baby mama $400 a month. He was staying with her, paying all the bills and everything. And he had it going into a checking account. And she felt as if when he got a raise, she can get more money. So when she took him to court, the judge heard everything from his side and her side and understood that this was a money grab. So the judge only told the guy only to pay 125. And when he only paid 125 every 2 weeks, not monthly, every 2 weeks, she was offended by that. And the judge explained, you left him with all the bills that he was originally paying on his own. He has to keep that up, plus still put money aside for the child. He's going to be paying the insurance because you don't have a job. He had you watching the child. You're not going to be working until you find a job, but you're still going to be watching the child. So you don't really need a lot of money. You're going to be staying with your parents, and everything took a twist, you know, to a degree. It wasn't what she thought it was going to be. And a lot of people feel as if, one person's situation is going to be just like yours. And that's never the case. When you do these court hearings or court situations, everybody don't get the same time for the same crime. And everybody don't get the same money pretty much because you don't have the same child. And, with that being said, it was, a lot of issues back and forth within this situation of the rent. If you go and look at the video, and that's less money going into the kids' hand. And my aunt and a lot of men I've talked to, they always said that the child doesn't ask to come into the world, but the least we can do is take care of it. Regarding me being a man, I'm gonna have to take care of my child regardless. I've seen videos where men didn't want kids, gave the woman sole custody, signed over their rights, but they paid the child support every month because they didn't want the child. And to a degree, it's kind of horrible to kind of, neglect your child. But I can understand if you didn't want the child and you specifically explained to the woman that you didn't want kids with her and she understood that. And when you had a baby, whether it be you could have got abortion or not, now the laws have changed, but to the degree when they were having abortions, you know, if you opt out of not having abortion, then that means you deem that you want to be so responsible for taking care of the child. I mean, that's only right if the guy didn't want to have the kid and you did want to have the kid. And, that situation where you have to meet up one day where that child has to, know who that father is and, the reaction against that, that'll just be what it is. But like I say, for the most part, you know, in this situation, the only person losing is the child because they're the situation where the father's not in there because it showed that with her having those four kids, she was having disciplinary issues. She was having issues with getting them to school on time because they probably didn't want to get up. You know, that was a couple of things I had to break in with my kids about. Sometime I would be home. My wife would literally have to go upstairs and get them up. If I yell one time, I hear the feet move. Sometimes I went to work late or I would be off because I have to go to a doctor's appointment to do something. And that will be the case. To the degree, a lot of times, kids try to play the games with their mothers because they know certain things they can get away with. And same thing with fathers, but more or less the men who are stern with their kids, they know not to play. And sometimes women who are stern with their kids, they know not to play with them. But it's always a thing to where with mothers, kids will try to push the boundaries and to a degree. Not saying a mother can't raise their kids properly or be a disciplinary force, but it's always to a degree where kids will always sometimes try to push the boundaries. I did that when I was younger, you know, to a degree because I knew certain things I could do and couldn't do. And You know, there were points where like my uncles or my granddad, anybody raising me, those men, I knew they would push. They was like literally punch me. Not try to knock me out, but literally, like they say, knock some sense in you, like hit me in the chest, hit me on the arm, you know, even with getting a belt being whooped by my mother, grandma, something like that, I could dodge a couple of those because I was young, kids pushing the boundary. And it was mainly to a degree where I had an understanding that, with that situation. And going into the financial part, as far as the money talk, you know, you have less money being delegated towards your kids when you have a situation like this to where, the father's not in the home. And, the mother who gets child support, she can say it's not enough money, but you would get more money with that father being in the home, you know. And that's the thing, like I always tell my wife, we have two incomes in our home. We, technically got about three or four because side jobs and stuff like that, but mainly two main incomes. And if I were to leave, that's like with the situation I always talk about with life insurance. If I were to die, there will be only one income in here, like she's a single mother, or widow, you could say the least. But still, the point of it is she would only have one income. That's why I always push life insurance to get the men and women though, because not only do I have life insurance, my wife have life insurance as well. Just in case something happens to me, same dean and being for her, just in case something happened to her, you know, the family will be taken care of, you know. And that's the thing, like far as my mentality, I know life still goes on, but I don't want the issue or burdens of my, me passing, having a situation to where my wife can't, you know, do normal day to day tasks, like, taking care of the kids, buying groceries, doing, paying the car note, paying utilities. It's to an issue to where if I pay the bulk of the main bills and if something happens, who's gonna take care of those bills? Back in the day, you had a lot of women that hurry up and got married to other men, because of that situation. I mean, there were men that walked out who had, seven kids from one woman, and she would literally go and marry another man, and he's deemed, the ushering in because she keeps the land because most of the time the men walk away from the home. She'll have the land to till if they had a farm with seven kids. The kids are helping, but the structure was the men who was actually taking care of the things. There wasn't a situation where a man would kick a woman out with seven kids. I mean, I never heard of it as such, and just leave. Most of the guys who they just left and walked away from that situation. So the woman still was regarded of having to take care of things to provide for the family or work. So when the new man came along, the new man would sit up there and he would take over things. Um, say the least with George Washington. I think yeah, it was George Washington. He came in with his wife already, being married before and became a widow. I think because her husband died or something. He had all this land, had slaves and everything, and he inherited all that when marrying his wife. So that was to the degree like with kids or something. Now he's responsible for those kids. Just make an example, saying the least. But when it comes down to that regard, you know, like I said, looking at this video with that last father that she actually added on to that attendance, to me, he was a good man. I'm not understanding why, that situation didn't work. And that's what I say, majority of situation, even through abuse, if there was abuse in the situation, I can understand. If there was cheating to a degree, it's 50-50, I still can understand. But more or less, you know, having a compromise amongst things, that's what I look at with most situations. A lot of people, you got to take your situations into account for yourself. What things you like, what is your bottom line, what you can't deal with or can you deal with? So, like I say, with that being said, a lot of people have to really look at, the situation at hand, with four kids, four different baby fathers, is to a degree, setting a tone of actually getting married and longevity. And the situation with choices in the matter, a lot of people have to, negotiate their choices. Because in the end, when the woman has the child, she's the one deemed responsible for that child and have to keep the child unless you turn the child over to the father. You know, and in most cases, that's not the case, so it doesn't happen like that. So with that being said, it puts a situation where the woman has, to bear more of the responsibility. And so with that, I always say when it comes down to it, you know, she would have to look at those situations of the men she deal with and regarding with the men. Men, you will have a situation with a woman who has kids. And like I say, I've married a woman with kids. So I know that situation. And I've always looked at if I deal with this woman, I know I'm gonna have to deal with the kids. Now, in what regard or what situation do I want to be responsible for? Because if I'm responsible for her and the kids, I'm going full force. If not, I'm not even, dealing with that situation. That's not even on my radar. If I don't want to deal with a woman with kids, I won't have the discussion about that because that's not me. Like I said, I hear a lot of men, have situations where they talk about women with kids. But to a degree, if you ask them and they say they don't deal with women with kids, well, why are we having this discussion? Now, if you deal with women with kids and you would say you would want women to be a certain way that have kids, they're not going to understand that. And most of the time, people over the time, they always changing their viewpoints. Like I said, it always go back to the money for me, far as these relationships and the kids, because raising kids is a lot, more or less on a responsibility, but more or less like the money wise, you're having to pay for supplies, clothes, constantly events they want to do. There's not a weekend goes by where my kids don't want to go to a game room, go out to eat, go do some things with their friends, wanting video games, wanting to spend money on games that they're playing virtually, wanting to, get the latest fashion and clothes or something like to the degree, or just even to have money in their pocket. You know, there's different ventures that my kids want to do all the time, as far as like with business wise. And by next week, they're on to something else. They want to make slime and sell it. They want to make poppets or make different little toys and sell them. You know, so it's always things that the kids want to do, and that's money going into that. You know, with two-parent household, you can negotiate and rationalize certain things, but it gets to a point where if you're not in a two-parent household, it's a fight for the child's love, to where mom is always saying no and dad is always saying yes. It's gonna make the mom look bad, or mom is always saying yes and dad is always saying no. It's gonna make the dad look bad, to the degree where you're in the house, you're starting to have an understanding that, even though dad does this and mom says yes, they mean well, because, just talking and they're right there in your face and he's explaining why he don't want you to have this, versus your mom saying he don't want you to have this because of this. That's when the heated debates and arguments, even the situation with 50 Cent, you know, when him and the situation with his son, it's that situation is kind of, crazy to me. But she's saying that he's not a good father by not giving money, but to the degree, you know, if y'all were still together, he give you money. Yeah, he's gonna cheat. That's a part of the industry. And but she didn't want any parts of that, him cheating and messing around, so she got out of it. So it's like I never understand someone wanting the full benefits of the relationship without being in the relationship. And I always say this a lot about divorces and situations too. If you don't like me, why do you want my money? You know, if we're in a situation where we can't, you know, I guess cohabitate or be in the same spot, or just to a degree, then that's an argument to the point where if you don't like me, you don't want me, don't have nothing to do with me at all. Far as monetary, anything, you know, take it and just go. Yeah. I mean, to a degree, I understand. I mean, overall, with that situation, he knows his son can't survive without something helping him because honestly, his son can't just live anywhere, especially in New York. Down here in Atlanta, he could, move around. Guys would mess with him, guys would get at him, but knowing without 50 backing him, they want literally too much just get. I mean, if you're looking like, you got something, they're going to try to rob you regardless. So just with him, in his situation, he just need to be more subtle, you know, do his job, I mean, 50 has countless try to help him start a sneaker business. He didn't do that. He wants to stay in one of the most expensive places, New York. Why not come back down to Georgia where he had a house, him and his mom, and just live comfortably? Your money goes farther down here than up north, but shining and staying on, and I mean, I kind of think a little bit of that money is kind of, settling back and forth with his mom as well, you know, because I mean that's always the child, a son or daughter, no matter what, is gonna always help and try to take care of their mom because you get to a sense to where your mom still needs you, and to a degree with him, it's kind of crazy that he doesn't even see him not having a relationship with his father is hurting more than helping him. You know, he could have been Ghost's son on Power. That relationship could have helped him long his career and do more things for himself. But he he's not that. He don't have that mindset. Yeah, I mean, even with that, he don't even really like. The point of it is, he's a grown man at 25. Say the least. He should be doing for himself. If you can't afford a lifestyle, don't live it. And that's the whole thing. He wants to be garnered as 50 Cent's son. He wants to be garnered as somebody who, is in the industry that's doing their thing. But, all the greats, their sons out here, and you look to them to kind of, say, are they a good father? Depending on how their kids look, how their kids are being represented, how their kids are moving. For instance, like Jordan's sons. Jordan's sons didn't really, hit hard in basketball, but to a degree, Jordan's sons work at his corporation. Jordan's sons, you know, do things, in regards to, his company and stuff. And same thing with, with let's even go with Kobe's daughter. Kobe's one of Kobe's Gigi, she was going in the footsteps playing basketball. And it shows like this is the representation of your father. And this is where it kind of falls on deaf ears with most people, that situation right there, you know. Into regards like um let's see another big person. Rev Run, you got Ice Cube. Ice Cube's son became an actor. Ice Cube's son raps. Ice Cube's son is not big on rapping, but far as entertainment wise, he moves well, just like his father. Got getting into the acting scenes. Um, you know, let's see, Ice T.I.'s son, well, all his sons and his daughter, all of them are moving generally, good, doing their thing, you know, and when it comes down to it, it has that situation, you know. And like I'm gonna make sure I keep refreshing to let everybody know. I'm basically talking about the pink lipstick. I'm sorry, um, Pink Book Lessons video about the woman that had 4 kids from 4 different dudes going on a rant talking about the issues um with what's going on. I got you on that AP, but hold on right quick. All right, there we go. Yeah, so had to make sure I got you. I got you AP. But in regards to everything, a lot of times, like, okay, I'm sorry, let me go back. All right, she had 4 kids with 4 different dudes, and she went on a rant about how she wasn't getting help, and mainly that the one of the baby daddies she put on the kids going to school for their schooling got mad because he questioned her about the attendance. And she was saying how it's hard to, put the kids together, get them to school on time, dealing with behavior issues. And, you know, um, Pink Pink Book Lessons was talking about how, with the situation with the kids, there's always an issue. And, with the father not being in the house as a disciplinary, you're going to have these issues with the kids. And I get that. Like I said, there's times that I have to get on my kids and I'm in the house for certain things that they do regarding, either, running their mouth, saying something out of pocket, you know, or, getting beside themselves to a degree. And not even just that. It just more or less kids will push the envelope. Sometimes they try you out of seeing what they can get away with. And sometimes they just generally just, you know, with them being what they who they are and how they're growing, they think they can get away with things. It's not even with them just pushing the envelope. It's with them thinking that they can get away with things. So you always have to, look at the kids in that manner and try to figure out, are you guys doing the right thing in regard? And if you're not, I'm holding you to that. And so, like I said, as far as the money wise with this situation, she's talking about the $200 is not enough. But like I say, with 2 incomes, you're good. If you're staying with a man and it, the whole process is hard. I mean, even with men, women both, you'll have a situation where you're trying to vet this woman, make sure she's the right one for you. Same regard for the women. The women are trying to vet this man, see if he's the right one, and you get into this clash. Like I said, as far as the money wise, you're looking at situations where all this stuff I'm doing in regard to have a better life for me and my kids, what most women look at. Then you have this man that says the same thing. I want a better life for me and my kids that's not with this woman. Is this woman going to be a good mother to my kids? Let's say the man don't even have kids. He wants to know, if I want to get into this situation with a woman with kids, am I going to, deal with this situation properly, with the father or whatever? Or I'm going to come in this situation with a woman with no kids in regards to, is she going to be a good mother? Are we going to have good kids? That always don't it necessarily don't have a balance because everybody's just showing a representation of themselves, that veil of looking good. You're going to show the nice clothes, the nice outfits. You're not going to show a dirty house. You're not going to show a dirty bathroom, to a situation where that shows the real you. That shows that sometimes, you're lazy and don't want to clean. All that goes into the choice making of that man or that woman. If a woman sees a guy that doesn't clean his shoes or, kick his shoes off all raggedy, his crib is look nasty or not up to par, she's gonna have questions in regards like, who is this man really outside of what I think he's representing and showing me? Same thing for the men. So that's why we always have this situation of picking the right one or picking a person that's going to be a part of my life forever, because sometimes forever isn't forever in most situations with people, you know. And I always put this out, over time, people change. So technically, I could be want to be married forever. I could want to have 10 kids. By the time I get married, going into year 10 or year 2, I can be like, man, this might be bad for me. I don't think I want this. I think I want to be in a polygamy relationship. I want to be monogamous. And people change. Without you not having that situation where you talk to that significant other, that's when it goes downhill. You know, when you have that situation to where you say, I don't think I want to be married, but you're still there, that's another thing. You're forcing yourself to be in a situation which you don't want to be there. So ultimately, you're going to have problems, you know, hence keep going on in that relationship. You know, that's the same thing in regards to, you know, like a big deal with, with kids. 18 years, everybody always say 18 years. You have a child for life. It doesn't stop at 18. Taking care of your child doesn't stop at 18 if they go to college or don't go to college. They're going to need money literally their whole life. I know 60-year-old men that still ask their mothers for money. $50, $200, $1,000. If they know that their parents got the money, they're asking. So it doesn't stop there. That's why I say, as far as getting into the money wise, you're gonna always be taking care of your child, even with someone else's kids. You know, yeah, I have stepkids. My stepson, sometimes I loan him about $100 or something. That's always going to be the case in the situation when you're dealing with kids, because they need help. They're gonna need some type of, you know, um, money or some help far as knowledge and information. That's why I'm trying to teach my kids now while they're young, to where they can have some knowledge that I needed when I was young. I was young and a lot of little stuff I didn't listen to. But, you know, to the level of the knowledge I know now, if I had this stuff when I was like 10, I'd have been I was mature for my age as already, but I would have been way more mature and way more ahead of the curve. And a lot of people fail to realize that when they're going into these relationships or going into these situationships. You know, how are you gonna, you know, help your kids? How are you gonna help yourself? You know, Gold Professor has the 9 laws of self-government. Law number 3, applied selfishness. A lot of people don't apply selfishness and think about themselves first. You know, we always hear the saying, happy wife, happy life. But to the degree, I always say, if that man is not happy, how can he make that woman happy? I can't give happiness if I don't if I don't have happiness within myself. How can I give people happiness? I can give you things as far as gifts, money and stuff, but it's empty. It's like giving a gift without no thought. Man, I knew it was your birthday and I went and bought you a pack of socks. Now, if that person loves socks, then that'll be the world. But that person has a lot of socks and they were expecting, it's like giving a woman a pack of socks. She wears heels and some most of the time. Getting a pack of socks, like, wow. Like, really? Yeah. It, you're right. Yeah, but you know, it's like to a degree, you giving your kids more knowledge now to kind of help them, you know, defend in the world, you know. And that's a lot of times, being the sole provider. A lot of I can say this to a degree. A lot of women try to take the bearer of everything and put it on their shoulders. You know, I got to be the one to do this. I got to be the one to do this. Because the father's not doing it, or the father's trying to. You kind of have a situation where you're mad at. And a lot of times, a lot of women lose out because they don't want to have that, co-parenting type thing, because he's not there 24/7. So how can he deem himself to, give more information, and he's not there? It's like the phone call dad, to where you only, around just to, come over, give me some money, then leave. You only come over to discipline. So that child is not going to look at that. I mean, even with situations where being a single mom, just like in this video they're talking about, how a lot of the older women are pushing, even with the women on that, was it Fox Soul, telling women to leave the men and this and that. And this woman is showing how, with her leaving her men, like, it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. I mean, being raised in a single parent home, you see that it's a lot of work. You need a village. My aunt, she would come pick me up from school, or she would have to go do certain things when she wasn't working. My grandmother, she didn't drive, so therefore, you know, people who, if I needed to get a ride from school, I was sick or something, somebody else had to come pick me up. Or if she was at work, somebody was off, they had to come, help and do stuff for me. So that village mentality, it is a thing. And a lot of people look at, not being able to, just do certain things for certain people. You don't have no love for me by not doing things. And I beg to differ to the degree. You know, Sometimes only somebody can do is just give you $200. And, like I said, with that woman, she has to take on all the responsibility. Unless that guy has it to where he can come over there, sit at the house and leave, then it's almost to the degree like, why get a divorce? I mean, there was a situation where a dude, he was co-parenting with this woman, and to the degree, the only reason I think that he was not in the house was because I think he cheated. Because I would come over there sometimes. I wasn't over there all the time, but most of the time I would come over there, it was probably 70, 50, 50, 50, or 70, 30% of the time he was there. You know, this guy was there. He would, talk to the kids, play with the kids, and, getting late, he'll leave. He'll go to his own house. And then I think I came back to back 2 days, he was doing that. Then it was a couple of days where I came over, he wasn't doing that. I was actually doing some work at the house. And to the degree, the guy was always there. And, I didn't want to intrude on it, but my whole thing was, why did y'all even break up? Because if you always here, then it's to the degree like, why break up? Like, why did y'all even break up? But, more or less, like I said, to me, it was like he probably had to a situation where he probably cheated or something, because that was the only thing that I could have seen. It was kind of crazy. And it was kind of crazy to me, why I was like, why they're not in a relationship? I'm like, he had to cheat or do something to the degree, because they will be talking, they'll be sitting down, have a conversation. The kids be upstairs getting ready for bed. They have their little conversation, then he'll go on about his way, go leave. And I really didn't understand that situation. And I was like, hey, it was to a degree where it just didn't work out between them. I think they had like three young kids together. I think the oldest was probably 7 or 6, and the youngest was 2 or 3. I think it was 2. The youngest was 2. So I'm like, wow. I mean, that's crazy. What is this? I don't know this guy. What's going on with this guy? Yeah, I mean, but it's more or less to a degree. Like I said, we're dealing with kids. Like I said, with this situation, it's a lot of work. You got to have a lot of patience, and having that relationship with that man, it it only helps if you deal with the kids to where y'all can have that communication and y'all get along properly. You know, and a lot of times, like co-parenting helps. You know, both families, like I said earlier, the village mentality. It helped me when I was young. Um, you know, a lot of times trying to bear everything on your own when you don't have to. I never get that. You know, a lot of times we have these situations to where if it's just us and we're in a state we don't know nobody, you kind of putting yourself in that situation. Go back home. If you don't have that relationship with your family, you should have that relationship with your friends. So that's the case. And with that being said, a lot of times people should, you know, um, garner that. Sorry, I got a text. Yeah, about my work. But I mean, it's just a thing, you know, where we gotta sit up here and work at it. Because like I said, with family situations, like money goes a lot further when you're doing it in a team. Team meeting, team helps. It helps the process a whole lot better. One individual trying to run a race when it's a team effort, you know, you got two people turn, let's say a wheel, two people turning a wheel, it's easier than one. You can be as strong as you can, but you have to use a lot of force. With two people, it makes life a whole lot easier. And that's even the thing about kicking kids out at 18. That never really pushed with me. My whole thing at 18, I still stand by. You need to have a situation in which you want to do with your life. I told that to my oldest son and my oldest daughter when they went out to college. My oldest son mainly. I knew my daughter was going. Yeah, I knew my oldest daughter. She wanted to go to college, but my son, he was on the fence about like, did he want to go to college, go to the military, and he was kind of up about what his decision making was. And I told him, I said, well, you're gonna do a couple of things. You're either gonna go to the military, go to college, or if you want to work, I can help you get an apartment. And it wasn't a thing of kicking him out. It was more or less giving him a choice to try to figure out what he want to do in life. And the only reason I was telling him to get an apartment because, excuse me, I wanted him to see how it is to stay away from up under us. And that's the thing. When a kid turn 18, like you ready to go, you've been up under your parents, but like you want to be free. And there was never a thing that he couldn't come back, but it was more or less experience life from around us, and that's the whole thing. Some kids gotta see how it is outside of that house to appreciate things more. That was with me. Once I got out, once I started, doing more stuff, I appreciated more from my family because of, my outside dealings and doing and all that stuff. But with that being said, I'm about to go ahead and get off of here. Like I said, everybody go and look at the description. I put the video about Pink book lessons, about her reaction to the video. And I might even come back and put this in here later on for people to come look at the actual video. I might do the reaction live about that. But the next time, you know what I always say for people, we here and we gone. Peace.